Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Sunday Sermons with Jake Ryan. Today, I want to talk about decolonizing your mind because it really feels like we are at a critical juncture, not only in American society, but really kind of the global society and all of human history. We have been subjected to and made witness to some of the absolute worst atrocities, the extreme violations of human rights, um, including but not limited to the genocides in the Sudan, Congo, uh, Gaza, and then the details that are yet to be unlocked from the Epstein files. Ultimately, what we are seeing is that there are really horrible people in power, and although, fortunately, the majority of Americans do want justice, we want genocides to stop. We want the deportations in this country to stop. We want the truth and accountability with the release of the Epstein files. Um, and I think that since October 7th, 2023, when Israel really ramped up its genocide of Palestinians, I think it has really just shown Americans how little freedom and power we actually have. This is, of course, not to give in to defeat or doomerism. I do fully believe in power of the people, and I believe that people channeling their rage, which is obviously an appropriate response to all of this, is how we get the change and accountability that we are looking for. But as it stands, the power of the American people has been weakened, and it has been a fully intentional thing. Um, Part of it, as what I want to get into today, is uh, this this American value of individualism is actually an impact of colonialism, and I think it's really important to name these components because this idea of decolonizing your mind, which is what I really want to give focus to today, is not really something you can do if you do not recognize how your mind has been colonized and how things show up. In the specifics of America, the US, colonization is very intertwined with capitalism, patriarchy, and white supremacy. I've had a hard time filming this one today, and I normally want to be very scripted to deliver my points well. And ironically, that comes from my perfectionism, which is one of the aspects of white supremacy. This idea that things only have value if they are good enough or, just like done to a certain standard. But I want to kind of speak a little bit more off the cuff today because I'm noticing there seems to be a great moral schism. I think those of us who see how wrong everything in the world is and who ache for the extreme violations against other people, it's nearly impossible to just move forward as though our other responsibilities matter. It kind of gives us a perspective of like, what are we doing all of this for if we're working, a lot of people work jobs that don't really matter to them, um, overworked, stressed out, just so our tax dollars could go kill brown people on the other side of the world. Like, we are at a point where we're like, what is the point of any of this? Why are we continuing to support this country and its horrible agenda? Um, this country runs on the power of propaganda, and propaganda is significantly less powerful when you understand the lies that prop it up. This country loves a good lie and uses many to justify its history. Um, you hear this idea that America was founded on religious freedom, and it's, I think, important to note that the early settlers of the U.S. brought over a victim complex that has permeated through to today. That even though they were the colonizers, they made the native indigenous Americans, as well as when they expanded west, the Mexican people. The settlers made them into the enemy. They created this idea called manifest destiny, this idea that God wanted them to expand west, that they were the good people for bringing Jesus and his teachings to this new land, even though it wasn't new, it was just new to Europeans. The King of England had wanted a single sect of Christianity to be the national religion of England, and the people who left claiming religious persecution were kind of religious extremists, and they wanted everyone in England to share their beliefs, and people were like, no, we're good with our brand of Christianity. You guys are a bit cuckoo. And so those people were like, oh my gosh, we're being persecuted. We have to go somewhere else. And I think it's important to note that, because America loves to play the role of the good guy. And unfortunately, the U.S. is just not a good country. It was founded on genocide, seeing the existing people and their way of life as beneath them, seeing it practically as their duty to eradicate them, to expand this idea of whiteness and Christianity. And even back then, I think very much missing the mark of Jesus's teachings. But yeah, another aspect of white supremacy that's important to note is it holds the belief of one right way. And you can very much see that, when this country has decided to other a group, it's full undecided. They are not right, and they need to either be corrected, so to speak, which is usually done through violent means, and if not corrected, then just completely exterminated. This country has been in war the majority of its short history, and it's putting so much effort into defending the narrative that this country wants to hold. I get accused pretty often of hating America, and it's just a funny thing that people think that, like, as soon as you have critiques or see this country for what it is, that you're just hateful of this country. I guess if I were to add some nuance to that, I hate that this country pretends to be something it's not. I think that the way that America pitches itself, the story it tells about itself, I think if it actually lived up to those values, it would be a wonderful place. But it's really hard that it is not living out the values that it sees. And another layer of irony is that my worldview was heavily influenced by having grown up in a military family. My dad was in the Navy, and we got stationed overseas for 5 pivotal years of my childhood. I was in Japan for 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade, and then we lived in Bahrain from 2000 to 2002 for my 6th and 7th grade. So I was in the Middle East during 9/11, and it was interesting to see how that had played out. And then returning to the U.S. for 8th grade, and that's what really made me aware of how much propaganda the American people are fed. because classmates, I'm in eighth grade at this point, classmates like, how great is it to be back in the best country in the world? And I was like, is that really what these people think? Um, because, and maybe it's different now, it's been over 20 years since I lived overseas, but when I was overseas and growing up, there wasn't a strong hate that I perceived towards America, but there was sort of a kind of a roll your eyes attitude, like, oh my God, Americans think they're all that, and that, they are the center of everything, the be all and end all. And other countries are just, not buying into the propaganda, because the propaganda is for the American people. It's not for the rest of the world. They are able to, I think a lot of them see us as we are, especially because the global South bears a lot of the impact of American choices. I think it's also important to point out that the US population is only 4% of the global population. And so I think it's really important for us to learn to decenter ourselves. Um, we are not excelling in education or healthcare or equality for women or people of color or LGBT people. We are far behind many other developed nations in many ways and metrics. And yet, this idea of American exceptionalism, we still tell the story that we're number one. Uh, and there are a lot of people who believe it. To go back to Gaza, unfortunately, there are people who, either because of sheer racism or being misinformed and not wanting to be better informed, but there are people who are either, weirdly vocally in support of the extermination of Palestinians. They might be in complete denial that anything is happening. There are people who like to try to claim neutrality, or they want to get into semantics and be like, well, what's happening is bad, but it's not technically a genocide. Or they repeat the idea that Israel has the right to defend itself. And Israel is just another copy of America, unchecked power with a victim complex. And yeah, it's what we are living through, what we are witnessing, what we are able to do or unable to do to create change is really, I think, difficult for I know it is for me. I see other people speaking up. There's just this feeling of insanity that we should be expected to act as everything is normal when it isn't. I recognize that bad things have happened throughout human history. Greed and violence have been part of human experience. But we are in a day and age where we are able to bear witness to and see in real time all the bad things that are happening all over the world, all at once. And it is, of course, overwhelming. And I think it's important for us to regulate ourselves and have hope that eventually the good people will win. Um, but that's not going to happen on its own. We need to overcome the conditioning, because another part of colonialism is American independence is pitched as a positive, but really what it comes with is we've been cut off from community. And a lot of non-white cultures are much more communal. They just understand that human connection is what it's all about. And so, again, as America says, it's so great to be independent and to do it alone and not need anyone. Um, on paper, great idea, wonderful, very cool. In reality, it means that we don't show up for each other, and that is definitely what fascism counts on: is for us to be overwhelmed and feel helpless, and it is manufactured, this helplessness. People do have power, and when we show up, when we fight back, when we show that we will support our neighbors, and you can't turn us against each other, that's when the powers that be fall. And so it really requires us to recognize that as we buy into this propaganda, which of course is often outside of our conscious awareness, we perhaps unintentionally support these systems. And so decolonizing your mind means you have to start by changing yourself. You are the only person in this entire world, in this entire universe, that you have control over. And you have to use that control. You have to make yourself aware of the narrative you've been fed and consider who it benefits and who's left out and why that story would be told. Um, and as you work to undo that conditioning, you change yourself and your relationship to yourself and the world and others around you. And that's what we need for revolution to happen. Because when more people can undo the propaganda and recognize the lies that were sold as just that, they join the fight. They get pissed off. They go, wait a second, I've been asked to sell out my neighbor and I'm not even any better off. So why the hell would I do that? Why would we not stand together and push for the better world that we all deserve? And yeah, I guess there's more I could say about that, but check out some of my other resources if you want some support on this. I filmed an entire podcast, 8 episodes. It's on YouTube and Spotify and Apple Music, I guess. I think Apple's podcasts. Helping people understand the systems of oppression that we live under and the narratives that we're sold. And the more people that we have doing this work, the more vocal we will be about the fight for a better world. I think as more people join the fight, those of us who are in it or on the edge will gain or regain some hopelessness to keep the fight going. But yeah, it is all power, propaganda, and control for us to believe that we are somehow free in the midst of all of this, or to believe that we have no power to change this. We are supposed to be a democracy, but clearly our elected officials do not care about representing us. And it is on us to make our voices heard. We cannot rely on them to change things for us. They have too much power and money and control to actually do the right thing, unfortunately. But the power to the people always. Educating yourself is one of the best things that you can do. Fascism relies on ignorance, and we're at a critical junction. There is no room for neutrality. Neutrality is how the bad guys win. So please do what it takes to decolonize your mind, to learn to see things as they really are, and to fight for a world that truly values all human life. Until next time, I'm Jake Ryan. Take care of yourself and others.